Grown Black folks talk. Why a degree matters more than you think. However, let me just say at once, whether you have a PhD or a GED or in between, you've got the same issues and you're going to have to use the same solution, and the solutions are available to you. One of the tragedies of last week's hot topic between the manosphere and Black women empowerment, BWE, is that we're spending a lot of time arguing about the same problems without understanding the world of Black people in the Black community is not the world. Black community is part of the world, and its culture and the way that it operates is part of the world, but the world is much bigger. To go another step, because I sometimes recommend Black women who are content creating and talking about international life, and there are Black men counterparts to that as well, the United States is not the world. The world is much more complicated than that, and there are many other ways. The world is so complicated that people that live in other countries see a way to a better future in the United States. And if you pay attention, people in the United States and study the world and see that there are other places where they can live where they want to live in the world. That's how much difference there is in how people are actually living and doing business out here. Within 100 miles of you, or maybe less, people are living fascinating, they're doing fascinating things that you would have no idea about, good, bad, or indifferent. So no matter where you ended your education, you're not done. College and university, let me just talk about this, okay? For those of you that have been to college or university or both, you have a certain advantage, and here's what it is. It's not necessarily that you have a particular degree in a particular field, although that is the market you have been there. Going to college, going to university allows you to be in an environment where a lot of knowledge about a lot of things in the world is in one place, and you have access not only to the knowledge, but to the practitioners, the professors. So you have scholarships for your fellow scholars, but also many universities offer fellowships and adjunct professor positions so that fellows in those fields can come together. We use these words all the time. We don't stop to think about what they are. If you think of college as collection of knowledge on a particular subject, it's contraction. That's not exactly the origin, but we're going to work with it that way. University, I can actually give you the actual the actual, what's that word, the demarcation for this is uni meaning one, versity coming from diversity, meaning you have a collection of different kinds of knowledge. Universities have several colleges that offer a collection of deep knowledge on a particular subject, and a university you can actually get to all of them. And you can meet people who are masters and fellow scholars in the field. Perhaps you haven't thought about this before. There are associate's degrees, meaning that you're associating with people. You have an associate's in the field. You're associating, you know enough to be an associate to people who are in the field, perhaps an assistant. There are bachelor's degrees, meaning you can stand alone in essence. Because bachelor does what? Stands alone. We weren't talking about women being in college at this time. There are masters, and then there are doctors in the field. These things have meaning. But most of us as Black people were taught to go to college to get a good job. So no matter whether it's a Black woman who has a college degree frustrated with a Black man who either did not go to college or didn't finish high school, they're still only arguing two ends of the same limiting idea because both have missed. But if you went to college or university, whether you know it or not, you were able to deeply study certain types of knowledge, and you were in the company of fellow scholars and you felt fellow and scholars, scholarship, fellowship, pay attention, knowledge of people who were scholars and fellows in those fields. You know, the fellows in those fields that we know, the professors. But then you, like I said, you have guest professors that sometimes are on a fellowship program because they, you know, he or she is good enough at what they do that the college or university would just have them there and pay for them to be there to be working on the field with the university or to be teaching students. This stuff is going on everywhere. And whether you know it or not, if you went to college, university, you were exposed to that. Now, let me tell you where the trouble starts. The trouble starts because Black men who do not progress in their education are frustrated the more Black women go to college and university and get exposed to this and realize that there are men who are much more successful in the world than what the average Black man is able to do. Men do not like to be compared to other men. Even the whole conversation about body count is really about that. Men do not want to be compared to other men in that sense. So the more knowledge a Black woman actually gets of the way men operate in the world and actually network together, the greater disadvantage Black men have. And if it ever occurs, and this is why divestment and swirling are so controversial, if it ever occurs that Black women stop seeing their goal after being educated is first of all, going back and giving back to the community, and perhaps marrying someone of lower economic level, and thus giving back to the community, if Black women ever stop doing it, the whole idea of community falls completely apart, because our numbers as a community suggest that we are desperately in need of information that we do not have to progress and succeed. We are on track to be part of the United States permanent, PERMANENT underclass. The lack of education and knowledge about how people in the world are being successful has become that grim that there will be no way to gap the gap. I'm looking at my calendar. 31 years from now. Enough time for those of you to have children to grow up in that and be adults, young adults, or young adults, early middle age like myself at that time. So clearly there's a knowledge gap. But if Black women decide that they're not going to bring the knowledge that they're getting and being able to be in environments that are exposed to different things that are going on in the world, if Black women decide they're no longer going to bring that information back and swirl or divest entirely, guess who's left behind? The men who have not bothered to get to those environments, and any women and children that decide to stay with them. This is going on as we speak. However, there are solutions beside us all sitting up here and being mad at each other for the next 31 years and not changing anything. The tragedy about Black women empowerment and the manosphere is that basically what's happening is both of them are giving life advice from the Titanic. Yes, that's what I said. I did not stutter. I did not misspeak. That is what I said. Both of them are giving you life advice from opposite sides of the Titanic. Maybe I'll call the video, don't take life advice from opposite sides of the Titanic. The only advice you need from someone on the Titanic to be able to help you get to the lifeboats. Now, let me show you how to do this. Again, whether you have a GED or a PhD or anything in between. If you think your acquisition of knowledge, of actually having to put study in and learn about things, stopped at 16, 17, 18, 19, 22, 24, and even 30, or even 41, you're done. This economy and the technology, and it turns over every 4 years. Technology turns over every 4 years. The way money is being made turns over every 4 years. And yet there are opportunities out there where you can take the income that you're making and bump it up 5, 10, 15 times, still without hurting anybody. Opportunities exist in the new economy, but you have to continue to study. And it is important that you get into the company of people who are on the same journey. YouTube creator Stephanie Perry says this all the time. If you're going to change your life, you need a network of people around you. To his credit, Kevin Samuels included this in his definition of the high value man. A network, the network effect. Now, there is a difference between scholars, fellows, and gang members. There's a difference between scholars, fellows, and folks who are getting together to travel the world to fornicate. But the idea is, whatever it is you want to do, you need a network. So that the network, as I said in my video about the virtuous circle, and a stop clock is right twice a day, the network lifts some of that load. And when you were in college or university, if you're still there, what you're getting the effect of is learning this knowledge in the company of a network. Now, many of us as Black people go to college and feel very much alone there because we're often very much alone there. And that we sense that the networks are not necessarily there to support us. This is why historically Black colleges and universities are still important. But if you are not in college or you never went to college, guess what? You are watching this on YouTube. Those comment sections on things that are positive are people who are learning the same thing that you are. So if it's positive information and there's people in content, those are your fellow scholars. I'm going to make a suggestion to you. And I'm going to put some resources in the description as always, because I'm not going to be the be all. I'm a relatively loud professor, one who speaks, but I'm not going to be the source of the kind of information that you need. I just point you to it. I heard a member of the manosphere talking about men should gain confidence by going to the gym. I'm like, sir, you might need to get saved and you might need some life coaching and some therapy. So I can only help you with 3 of those. I'm on getting in better shape and losing weight does help you have more confidence, but that's not a strong foundation. You need to work on your internals. You need to work on your spiritual, emotional, moral, and intellectual parts. You got at least 5 things to deal with. So I'm going to put resources for 2 or 3. And if anybody wants to know how to do this from a Christian perspective, I'm going to put that we can talk about. Drop it in the comments if you're interested. And over here, you're going to hear oftentimes, because I am a Christian, if you need to explain how that your main problem is your sin problem. And the Lord Jesus Christ died on the cross for your sins, was buried and rose on the 3rd day to deal with that. I realize not everybody wants to go by that path. So I'm going to put the other 2 in there, get some therapy, get some life coaching to help you build up on the inside. And then, because we're so busy having this argument about high earning, please get some knowledge. Use YouTube to find out about investment and about business. I'm not talking about, and a friend of mine and I talked about this yesterday, so I need to make a disclaimer. There are a lot of people who are in business who are hustlers. They may be legit though. So here's the thing about sales. Sales focuses on selling you things based on your pain points. There's a place for that in a business. But the drug dealer is selling to your pain. And the course creator is selling to your pain as well. The idea is, and the manosphere is selling to your pain, and Black women empowerment is selling to your pain as well. The idea is to constantly remind you that you are in pain, to accentuate the pain so that then when they present you with a solution, whether it's helping you to identify with people who are upset with the same things you're upset with, or whatever it is they're trying to sell you, you're desperate for it at that point. That's why I told you stop eating rat poison. That was the previous video. Stop eating rat poison, because that's what you're being sold. A lot of people are in business and just selling a new hustle. And I look at, if you move from an illegitimate hustle to a legitimate hustle, I'm not here to knock it. I'm just saying that's not all there is. Because remember, the world is bigger than your world. The world is bigger than the hustle and hustle culture. Yes, please move from illegitimate to legit. Do that first. That's a step in the process. But understand, passive income is a thing. Business income is a thing. Accrual accounting is a thing. Being able to have enough money to hire an accountant so you have to know what it is, but you don't have to sit there doing it, is a thing. The world is much bigger than you think it is. Much bigger. Gotta get out there and learn about it. I'm not saying that you have to go back and go into debt to go back to college and university. I'm saying if you can't do that right now, there are a lot of things, Skillshare, Udemy, there are many. I'll put some of them in the description. There are places that you can go as an adult and then seek the company of people that are learning the same things. Well, okay, so we're out of COVID, kind of. Well, then get you an N95 mask. They're available on Amazon now, and be able to go where there are people learning, discussing. I crash business conferences, and I'll be looking for some lectures to go to. I'm reconsidering taking my second language again and touching up on that. There are ways that you can, again, be in a company of people who are studying the same things. As a person who's a nonprofit professional, I can also be in the fellowship of people who are doing similar works in similar fields. That's also a possibility. So there are a lot of ways that I can go as an adult of 41. Now, don't get me wrong. I have 2 degrees and a certificate. I did well in all of those. I never left the dean's list at any time. But if I thought that my degree stopped, and let me also be fair to the gentleman for just a second. If you are a Black woman, it is good that you have your accomplishments. There are plenty of men who do not care about that, period. But not all men are on that page. There are plenty of men that do not see that degree as any more than what the average person sees to it. If it's not bringing money into the house, why do you even have it? But an acknowledgement of the fact that you're having a degree 10 or 20 years ago on fields when the whole economy has turned over, it is a good step to have, but the value comes in you being able to take your network effects from that circle. And that's something that not all women have kept up. Having the degree does not translate as far as you think it does in an economy with technology turns over every 2 to 4 years. But you're being able to take that and adapt it and continue to learn and to adapt it and to continue to learn and to adapt and continue to learn. That's something the college and university gives women who've been there that men who've not been there do not have. It's just simply, it is what it is. But instead of standing on the fact that you have a degree, what you probably want to stand on is that the networks and the adaptability that you have. If I had a degree in, actually, I can tell you this. I was one of the last journalism students in this area. I took publication and design, and that got me my first job. The thing is, a lot of that job was then shipped off to other areas. So even though I have the skill, that didn't help me. Well, guess what? So publication and design, let me show you something. Publication and design. Well, that did not do for me what I thought it would. But the fact that I have that kind of knowledge lets me sit around and do things like this. Let's see if I can share the screen real quick. The heart that you see is among the things that I've been able to design. And you have to know about proportions and all the rest. But you know, hold on. I can also do more abstract things. I gotta see if I can find it. A fanciful tree with its roots, proportions, and all the rest. Being able to have one area and ideas about what to do if you learn about the golden ratio, among other things, you can then go and create beautiful art. For another example, and go to some of the, need a Christmas star? I've got it for you. Publication design didn't actually help me in my field, but it gave me the door to unlock what's been paying my bills for quite some time. Studying music, classical music in particular, did not pay any bills, but the skills that I got to build on that and adapted and continue to learn and adapt pay my bills now. So the benefit is to be able to study something deeply and to be adapted to the situation that you're in. And if you are not going to college, if you have not done that, then understand YouTube University exists. Skillshare exists, Udemy exists, and many other platforms. Teachable exists, and many other platforms whereby for very reasonable cost, you can begin to study the many important ideas and concepts that are actually active in the world today and pick up entirely new skills and be in the company of people that are practicing the same thing. This is very important. This is not something that most of the people who are in the spaces that a lot of my listeners listen to are talking about. But like I said, you got to be careful getting advice from people who are on the Titanic. What you need to do is go and find positive knowledge and then get down into those comments and network and then get off it. Almost everybody has a good Discord nowadays. I don't. We got, there's 440 of us over here, 439, 440 the last time I checked over here. We're not at that level yet, but I'll point you to places that you can go and get good information. Feed your mind on good information. Take yourself to college and university. And if you have a local community college that's open and has online courses, frankly, look at it this way, you can sit in the comfort of your own home and go back and study something and be in the virtual company of people who are doing the same things and networking with people who are doing the same things. We got 31 years, y'all. People are going to continue to go in circles. Circling the drain are going to continue to go in circles and circle the drain until they find themselves fussing and fighting with each other and locked in the cycles of resentment and violence and disappointment that are in the permanent underclass. That's what's going to happen. You don't have to go on that journey. I'm telling you, get to the lifeboats. Take yourself back to college and university as much as it's possible for you to do that and begin to really be learning the kind of knowledge that's going to help you. On this channel, I have mentioned to you enough information to be able to change your financial situation. I got more coming down the pipe for you. I'm not a financial advisor, but I can let you know some things that are going on in the world. And then you have to go follow up because I'm not the expert on any subject. I'm the professor. I talk about stuff, but then I'll give you links to go study it, homework, all that good stuff. I actually am a teacher. That was my certificate. And I've been teaching choir and music and Sunday school for 25 years at 41 years old. So yeah, I talk a lot. I'm a professor, but I can't learn. I can tell you about it, but I can't learn you. You have to choose to be learning information that's going to change your life. Nobody's going to do it for you. None of these people who are constantly having you mad, men mad at women and women mad at men, is going to help you. Some of these women are out here having these celebrations and putting a target on your back right now. Some of the men are justifying doing it, and some of the women are putting you in the way of it. Again, life advice from people on the Titanic. A whole bunch of folk, but give it about, that's a whole different video. We're not going to do that video today, but I'm like, give it about 6 months. That's a whole different video. There's so much foolishness going on. And for those who enjoy foolishness, folks out here about to get snatched up more. Don't get on that. Get to the lifeboats. Take yourself back to college and university. Get in the company of people that want you to, that are learning things that actually will better your situation. Go learn from people who are successful to an extent that we are not always. And then here's what also happens. You do this, I was almost alone as a Black person in college and university. So I made the best of it. But guess what you find out as you get older? You're going to meet other Black people who are doing the same thing. If that's what you really want and desire, it is possible to meet Black people at every level you want to go to. But that's a journey. You got to start. There's going to be a certain number of Black people that don't go into the permanent underclass, but you got to start to get your spot. Just saying. All right. Enough. I have professed enough today. Y'all enjoy your day. Thank you for listening. Goodbye. Resources in the description.